Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my first reaction of Mummy on the Orient Express. I am, of course, the Immortal Cave and sandwichtrust.blogspot.ca, and as usual, there will be a link to my blog in the description. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, this is Mummy on the Orient Express. I still think it should have been called Mummy on the Orient Express in Space, because that would have been the best title ever, even more than last week's Kill the Moon. Now, both for the episodes I just mentioned, Mummy on the Orient Express, and for Kill the Moon, I'm going to be having spoilers. Past year, you've been warned. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, um, last week was a very interesting episode in the sense that I do think it got kind of silly and weird at some points, but at the same time, I do think what it was at its core was a good episode, and it ended with the Doctor and Clara getting into a massive fight. Now, in the next time on, we really didn't see anything of Clara, or at least I didn't. Partially because of the fact that she does look a bit different in this episode, but yeah, I was pretty much convinced that she wasn't going to be in this episode. It was just going to be a Doctor-centric. Now, as I mentioned, she is in the episode, which I do think kind of sucks. I think it would have been very interesting if they had it so that the Doctor doesn't immediately, she doesn't immediately forgive the Doctor, or, she mentioned in the episode she was pissed for months, I think, or weeks, sorry, I can't remember if it was weeks or months, but that happened, and I was really expecting that it was going to turn into, this entire episode, and at the very end, they'd either make up, or something would happen at the end of the episode, but, go figure, this is the Doctor time traveled to after weeks of her being pissed, and they talked it over, and apparently they were fine with it. Now, this episode is very interesting. This episode is a very compressed version of, and I'm not making comparison because actually this was a fairly original episode, all things considered. Like, a lot of the episodes you could say, well, this is like a new version of blank. And in some cases this is very true, in some cases this is not. For the rest of the episodes. This one is actually fairly new. Like, there was a little bit of Voyage of the Damned, but not much. Like, not enough to actually make a comparison. But in the first, what I was going to say, this is a very compressed version of the Family of Blood episodes, actually. Because the entire first half of this episode was interesting, but it was more interesting than the first episode of Family of Blood, I'll say that. But, it was just not really there. Like, I was pretty much expecting to come out of this being, well, we've got another Kill the Moon. It was kind of good, but it wasn't great. No, this was actually a very good episode after the first half. The first half, the highlight of the first half of the episode was within about 5 minutes when they get onto the train, the Orient Express, which I love the design of it, by the way, but that's beside the point. And they get onto the train, and there's a lounge singer, and it immediately struck me she was singing a jazz version of Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. Can I just say, that's awesome. Seriously, that is my favorite song by Queen. God damn it. Like, that was just kind of like, Chris, don't worry. By the way, my name is Chris. Chris, don't worry. Good is coming. To tide you over, here is jazz. Here is Queen. Here is your favorite song by them in a jazz version. So, yes, that was actually incredibly awesome. Regardless, yeah, the first half wasn't terrible. It was just kind of eh. And it sets up the idea of this mummy that only one person can see at a time, and after 66 seconds, that person dies. And it's a very interesting episode because at first they're trying to keep it secret, and then it becomes blatantly obvious that, it's it's real. So, what I like about this episode is and again, I'm going into heavy spoilers here. Halfway through the episode, and this is where things started getting pretty cool, is that it's revealed that uh, Gus, this what we thought was an AI or something, turns out to be like somebody who's trying to figure out a way to get rid of the foretold. This is one of the weirder parts of the thing because Gus, it turns into kind of this like we never really find out who Gus is or who's behind Gus. We just know it's the bad guy, and it's very. The end is actually very weird. I'll get to that later, but basically they find out that the entire thing has been set up because there's a bunch of people who are basically kind of assigned into, who are invited to try and figure out what's the deal with this mummy, the Foretold it's called, and it does play a little bit more with the Doctor's kind of cruel side. Basically having it said he's just basically sacrificing lambs to the slaughter, going, all right, let's just keep people dying if they can keep feeding me information about what they're seeing or what have you. So people keep dying, and he's just like, okay, next person, I need more information. Like, give me more information, and I might be able to save the next person. And it's jarring, in a good way, though, compared to the last Doctor, the last two Doctors, really, who were just, I mean, for God's sakes, the 10th Doctor is one of his catchphrases, I guess you could say, was, "I'm so sorry." And the 11th was just a very nice, polite character. So, it was very odd seeing the Doctor being just like, come on, just kill another person, just tell me what the hell's going on. And I like it because it is so different, and because it is focusing very heavily on it. I like it. I like it quite a bit, because it does portray this Doctor in a very different light, in a very interesting light. And I like it. Now, it is very off. And Clara starts flipping out on him again. But my favorite thing is at the very end, basically, they figure out what the Foretold is. It was a soldier from an old, ancient race that visited Earth. I think they might have been getting into the whole aliens built the pyramid things. If they were, it was very subtle because I never actually brought it up, but meh. And, oh, and by the way, yes, the Doctor does say, "Are you my mummy?" And yes, it almost seemed like he was saying it in more of a mocking tone than actually just trying to reference it like the 10th was when he had the gas mask on. He was more just like, "Yes, you, come here. Are you my mummy?" Yeah, he was just like, he was very mocking with it. And it worked. I like it. Because it fit him very well. But yeah, at the very end, the Gus, or whatever his name is, figures out, okay, you figured it out. Now I'm going to suck the oxygen out of the thing because we don't need survivors. Sorry. And the Doctor, basically everyone goes unconscious except the Doctor. The train then explodes, and it does a time lapse to the Doctor and Clara on this beach, and he's just writing something in the sand, like with a stick. And I get the feeling that that's probably going to come up later. You watch. That's going to be like the friggin', the Doctor visiting in, what was it? Flesh and Stone? I think it was. The second part of the Weeping Angel episode from Season 5. Anyway. And, yeah, I have this feeling that that's going to end up happening, but that's beside the point. And he kind of gets into discussion, like, he starts talking about, like, look, sometimes there's no right answer. Sometimes I've got to make a choice between two bad decisions. And he kind of explains his side of it from the cruelty thing. And it's not really him being cruel, it's more that it's him just trying to take as good of an advantage as possible. Not trying to be cold, but just trying to make sure no one else dies. And it's He's very calculating, and he is very cold, but I love the 12th because he is so different, but he is still the Doctor in the end of it. And that's very fascinating, how they managed to do that, and I like it. I am still a little bothered that they basically just said, yeah, I tried to get in contact with Gus, but he was just like, he blew up the train. So we don't know who was behind Gus, if Gus was just like a rogue AI, or like nothing is known. And I have to admit that does bother me a touch. Because it was just like, who needs a villain? Whoosh. Like, it just seemed completely pointless. Like, they could have just had it be a coincidence. Or whatever. Like, literally, they could have just said, they could have completely avoided that coincidence thing and just said, like, there are all these great scientists here. This is perfect. We could probably figure out something out to do. Like, they could have, I don't know if it would be worded like that, but something like that. And they could have just completely, like, ignored it or whatever. But, again, maybe that one's just me. Generally speaking, though, I will say this. I do like the episode. Quite a bit. It was a very good episode. Better than Kill the Moon. Better than Time Heist. Not as good as Listen. We probably got a runner. Well, no. My third favorite episode of this series, I would say. Next to... Well, season, I should say. Next to Deep Breath and Listen. Generally very good again. Clara kind of comes off as just confusing. And it does seem like it's fairly obvious that this is... excuse me again. That this is turning into kind of the same situation as it was with the Pawns, where they're trying to get out of it, but they're not really getting out of it, and they want to get out of it, but they're not really, and they're going to go for one more, and yeah, I'm pretty sure at this point Clara's not making it past Christmas. I'm certain she's not making it past Christmas. Season 9 is going to have a new companion. Like, I'm certain. And I'm going to be honest with you, I really do think she should have kept some kind of a mystery to her to this point. Like, I don't know, it just seems like... I've ranted on this before, but the fact that they were just like, here's the entire purpose of the character, and now it's gone. And she's still here. Okay? Like, that still kind of bugs me. Danny is in one or two little mini scenes, and admittedly, I'm honestly starting to kind of, I don't know, I'm starting to run down on him because he's not doing anything. Like, he's nowhere near Rory. He's nowhere near Mickey. At least Mickey did shit. Like, admittedly, he was remarkably annoying at points, especially in Season 1. Actually, mostly in Season 1. But at least he did things. Danny's just at home going, hi, babe. Oh, you're on a train? That's cool, bye. Like, he's not doing anything. He's just there. Like, that... basically, this is a good episode for the Doctor. Not great for everything else. Is kind of the way I'm wording it. But because it is so good for the Doctor, and because it is a very unique and kind of a really cool premise, actually, for the episode, I like it. I do really genuinely like the episode. Again, it does have its problems, I think. Clara's just coming off as... Like, all I could think about is just, okay, she's dying during the Christmas special, or she's leaving during the Christmas special, or she's whatevering during the Christmas special. So she's not making it past Christmas. And Danny's just become... just... he's boring. He's very boring right now. Seriously, bring him along! Why don't you bring him along? He's a sub-companion that doesn't do anything. It's like if Rory just went to sleep on the couch during Vampires of Venice instead of going with them. Ah! Sorry. Yeah, generally I do like the episode. And the next episode we've got coming up, I didn't look up the name, but it looks... Man, it looks weird. Like it looks very unique, but I'm not sure what to make of that episode. Seriously, like I'm just kind of looking at it like, well, this is neat, but like I'm just kind of, I don't know. I'm just kind of like I got my head just tilted at this. Excuse me, I just got home from work like 2 hours ago. Anyway. So yeah, that's about it for this episode. Generally pretty good. Makes the Doctor look a little bit more interesting, a little bit better. Makes Clara look like she's not making it past Christmas, and makes Danny look boring, but aside from that, nah. Good premise, good Doctor. I'll take it. Anyway. Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen. I shall see you next week.